Welcome back to Dying Light 2. I'm on my way to a destination. And I figured I'd get started now to sort of preface this a little bit, because normally I try to avoid being critical at all of games when I'm playing them, because, you know, hey, I make games myself. I understand how difficult it is. And I don't want to, basically be, too hypercritical of somebody else who's, particularly people who make a game that I really, really love. Like Dying Light 2, which I've been playing obsessively since it came out. And there's so much in this game. Like, I feel like I've still barely scratched the surface. And I think this is going to be my 12th video on the topic, so clearly I'm a massive fan of this. And so I just want to preface that because I think this particular session, I'm going to be talking a lot about a part of the game that I didn't love when I experienced it last night. But I just really want to, make sure that you understand. I'm looking at this from a place of love because, I want to sort of examine some of the problems that you face when you're doing game development, which, I've faced a lot of these same problems, and I've often solved them in less than optimal ways. So anything I, criticize here is definitely something that I'm probably guilty of many times over in other settings. So I just wanted to make sure that that's clear, because we're about to look at the Paraglider City Tour. So I spent a significant chunk of last night working on this parkour challenge. And as you can see, I only got to silver. I actually only succeeded at it one time. And I got silver, which is great. The thing is, I don't even know if it would have been possible for me to succeed at it getting bronze. Because basically, the way that this particular challenge works, either you succeed at it, or you fall completely on your face. There aren't a lot of middle grounds with this one, because it involves the paraglider, which you're flying way up in the sky, and if you miss one of your checkpoints, chances are there is no way you're getting that checkpoint back. So let's play through this once. I'm pretty sure I'm going to fail at this, because again, I've only succeeded the one time. But let's see how this plays out and talk about some of the problems that they're dealing with here. So I jump off, trigger my paraglider, and now, whoa, okay. Now I can angle downward to go faster and lose height, or I can angle upward to extend my path and occasionally gain a little bit of height. But, okay, barely made that one. If I miss one of these, I'm basically screwed. Okay, so that one accelerated me, making that one a little harder to hit. And then I hit this one, then I have to catch this updraft perfectly, because it's easy to miss this one if I don't go quite high enough. Then I hit this one. And this one, which is a place I might be able to recover a little bit if I lose too much height. And I gain as much height as I can there. Hit that checkpoint. Oh, no. Okay. That one. Now I'm going around a little curve here. Now, I have to hit this one at the right angle. If I hit both of those vents at the same time, I go too high to hit the next checkpoint. But I think I did okay. I'm going to dodge this corner, hit this one, not hit this bar to the left, which I've hit and grabbed onto before by accident. Hit this one, rise up. So far, this has gone better than it has ever gone for me before. So try to stay above the ground and... Oh, okay. Well, whoops. Luckily, I think I can still make this. Oh, nope. I screwed up. Hold on. Okay, so I overshot this one. Luckily, it's at ground level, so I can leap across and grab it. And then fly again. Okay, so I just missed gold. Because of that, I didn't get gold. But we're almost at the end now. And this might be the best run I've had. Whew, okay, yeah, so I didn't get gold. I got silver. Which is great, and that doesn't seem very frustrating because I spent so much time last night practicing it. But here's the problem. Let me show you what happens if you make some of the mistakes that I was warning against. Okay, so let's say we get going all right. Same way as before. I hit this first checkpoint. and then I hit this next checkpoint, but I missed the following one. And I'm like, oh crap, I didn't quite get to it. Well, I can't get the next checkpoint now. And so now I have to kind of go back, and I'm like, I can't steer. And now I can't gain any height to go get it. And so I'm like, okay, my only option, I guess, is to climb this building again, get on one of those vents. But it'll take me so much time to climb up there. Like, I mean, I can try it, you know. But yeah, I'm losing a lot of height already. Can I... Oh, now I'm down here. I don't even know how to get up there from here. Can I jump to this, maybe? Jump back and forth a little bit? No, I can't. Oh, man. And right now, I've already lost so much time that it's impossible for me to win. I can't possibly win it now. But the time won't actually expire for another minute and a half. And so I can just stand here. And here's where I started. Oh, wait a minute. Holy crap. Hold on. I never noticed there's a cancel button. Okay, so one thing I did was I opened this up. A lot of times if a game's got a challenge ongoing, you can open up the pause menu and there will be some kind of like restart current challenge option. So I hit the start button. I checked for that. I didn't find it here. I'm just noticing for the first time, though, that there's this cancel button over to the left. So let's try that. I don't know what happens when I hit this. Let's try that. So I hit cancel. Okay, it resets me here. All right, good. Okay, so I didn't notice that there actually was the tool I was looking for, because the thing I was going to talk about here was, you know, it seemed like they had no way to cancel out of an ongoing challenge, which was driving me crazy because I kept starting this challenge. And I would make a simple mistake like that, just missing one checkpoint. And certain checkpoints, like you saw in my original run, there's certain checkpoints that if you lose them, you can run back and grab them and continue just fine. But there are other checkpoints in this particular route where, like this one right here, if you miss this one, that's it. You can't get it back. Similarly, this one, if I miss this one, I cannot get back up here without basically canceling the entire challenge. And so what I found myself doing, because I didn't notice the cancel button, was actively trying to kill myself in order to cancel it. Because if you die during a challenge like this, it just resets the challenge. It sends you back to where you got it and starts you over, with full health, and you can decide whether you want to trigger it or not. Oh, crap. That's a thing that can go wrong. Let's see if I can still fix this. Nope. Okay, yeah, so here's another way that this would happen. I would just run into a case where, I can probably get this thing by going in reverse, and then have to, oh wait, no, because that sends me up so high. Now I can't get it this direction. So what I've been doing is deliberately killing myself. Because then the challenge fails, and it resets, and everything goes back to normal. So I've been doing that, and so the thing that was sort of like the question in my head when I was playing this, and I didn't realize there was a cancel button, which, by the way, massive credit to the team for noticing that was necessary and adding it to the game, because I was grappling earlier with a version of this game that existed in my head where there was no cancel button. And I was asking myself, why would that be the case? And I basically figured that, there must have been some kind of technical reason why it would be difficult to set that up. There must have been some kind of reason why canceling the challenge midstream might, I don't know, lead to bugs or have some, very difficult to work out problems that result from it, and that they had to, that they basically had to, ship the way they did out of necessity. Because I don't think anyone actually would think, not being able to cancel out of a long-term, but ultimately fruitless challenge like that. Like once you've screwed yourself over, wasting the minute and a half waiting for it to reset just sounds miserable. Nobody thinks that's a good idea. Even Elden Ring players would not think that was a good experience. And so I was like, so it wasn't like a design decision. It was probably a technical hitch. And so I was trying to imagine, okay, if I were the designer in this scenario, and I've been asked to make a paraglider challenge, which is inherently going to be very frustrating for players who make mistakes. what would I ask for? Like, how would I engage with this problem, particularly if someone on the technical side told me I could not have a cancel button because of whatever, because of some unknown, ill-understood technical reason. And so then I started, thinking, okay, well, what do I do as a player when this happens? Well, I kill myself. And so I was like, okay, so maybe what I would ask for in that scenario is not a cancel button if for whatever reason that was going to be hard. Instead, I was like, okay, well, what I really want is a player kills themselves button. And so I would say, have it be somewhere on the pause menu or something, just a button that says self-destruct or something like that. Because if I had that button, it would have the same effect as a cancel button. There would be some steps. It would probably watch the character play a death animation, for instance, by default. And you'd probably have, have it be weirdly negatively skinned. So it seems like something bad happened, even though you're just doing something that you wanted to do. But at least it would get us somewhere. It would remove that frustration. And then after that, I'd be like, okay, can we improve this user experience a little bit? Can we take it and, can we make it so that... we skip the death animation and we skip sort of the red blood, that sort of covers the screen whenever you die. And then at that point, basically, I would eke it closer and closer to just being a cancel button until it was a cancel button. But each step along the way would have an improved, more shippable version of the experience that isn't great, but is better than what we had before. And that's actually the way a lot of... the reason I thought this was interesting to talk about, because that actually is how a lot of features in video games end up working. There's a version... there's a solution that people would come up with if they were like, we've got, all the money we need to do this right, so let's come up with the ideal player experience and then implement that exactly the way that we imagined it. And a lot of the time, that is what you get to do. You get to do that version of a feature. But when you run into resource limitations, technical challenges, you have to start improvising. You have to start coming up with new approaches. And, things that are not the optimal way to do it, but that at least kind of work and will be better than nothing. Like if your options are, ship a challenge like that with no way out and ship a challenge like that with a kind of dorky way out, definitely pick the dorky way out over no way out at all. Now, it turns out they actually did add an elegant way out. I just didn't notice it, which is, that's more of a UI and UX problem than a sort of a deeper design problem. But the point is that, I don't know, that a lot of, like, sometimes your least favorite feature in a game or the dorkiest feature in a game, where you're like, well, why didn't they obviously do it this obvious way? Usually it's because of a series of negotiations like that. Either for technical or resource reasons, the perfect sounding idea just wasn't an option. And so then you get, an entire team of people sort of improvising here and there to try to make something work in spite of itself. But the problem is that those things end up cascading. A lot of the time, it actually is cheaper to just do something the real way. In the moment, like when you're actually making the decision, sometimes it feels like you don't have the resources or the time or the technical freedom to do the thing that would be sort of the best move. But a lot of the time, what you'll end up doing is by choosing something like if they had gone with my improvised solution of just letting the player self-destruct whenever they want to, there would probably be weird consequences of that. Like, for instance, if they've got telemetry that's tracking how often the player dies, and they're using that to sort of gauge the difficulty of the game, then if you added in a bunch of deaths that are actually not real deaths, but are instead triggered by the player, then you're messing up that telemetry. And then you have to, do an alternate version of the death that is just for your player triggered deaths, and it doesn't have that telemetry hook in it. And then there'll be another problem. Like there'll be complete this part of the game without dying challenge. Well, if the player used your improvised cancel button, that improvised cancel button counts as dying, and they've screwed themselves out of an achievement without even realizing it because it's not skinned as a death, but it's a death under the hood, and then you have to make a special exception for that. And then as you keep stacking up these exceptions, you end up in a situation where here, I'm going to find an interesting place to go. You end up in a situation where you've done more work to try to overcome all of the weird edge cases and limitations of your, suboptimal but cheap solution, you end up doing more to support that than you would have done just to make it right in the first place. And so that's the thing that's it's very difficult for game teams to navigate. Is it's the fact that a lot of the time, doing something the expensive way seems like a bad move, but ultimately the expensive way is actually the cheap way, because of all of the things, all of the weird ramifications that you're not thinking of yet. So I have not been paying any attention to the chat. Let me quickly get to oh no, okay, good. There's a mission that I was thinking of trying. So let me get over to the sort of the safe zone where that mission is, and I'll go and read back in the chat and see what you folks have been saying about this while I've been playing and ranting. I'm about 300 meters away, so dang. Okay, look, can I make this? No, I can't. Okay, well, fine, I guess I'll use this rope instead. Oh, that goes all the way down to the, fine, whatever. Yeah. Unlocked. I love active landings, by the way. Like when a game lets you sort of crouch in the air on the way down to a landing, and as a result of that, like take less damage because you basically do a roll. For some reason, I've just got a special affinity for that particular mechanic. I just really like it in all the games that feature it. Oh, hey, so we've got a viewer named Dying Light 2 Dev. In the chat, are you an actual Dying Light 2 dev? Because if you are, I really hope that my love of your game came across, because I was commenting primarily on a negative experience. At the very beginning of this stream, I made sure to like emphasize really seriously how much I love this game and what a great time I'm having with it, so that when I was talking about an experience that was less than optimal, I wouldn't give an overall negative impression, because that's the last thing I want to do. I absolutely love this game, and I'm having a great time with it. And actually, it turned out the thing I was going to criticize the game for wasn't real. I just hadn't noticed that there was a cancel button. And so the version of this game where there was no cancel button, that particular challenge is really, really frustrating. But the version of this game that you actually made, which is the version with a cancel button, is fine. And I have nothing to complain about in that regard. So anyway, I've got no idea if Dying Light 2 Dev is an actual Dying Light 2 Dev or not. It's very easy to make whatever, whatever handle you want to on Twitch. But yeah, anyway, if anyone who did work on Dying Light 2 ever watches this, I really hope that I emphasized well enough how much I love the game and how, that the things that I'm complaining about are, tweaks on an experience that I overall am very, very glad that I have. Also, there's a zombie just eating a dude right here with like several people around like ignoring it. How the banality of suffering in this world is so intense. All right, so let me look up here and see what else I might or might not have missed. There are a lot of people in my chat that I've not acknowledged yet, by the way. A lot of regulars, Zedric and Director Cosmic, Nowanmai, Malator, Jedi Cyctrix. It's good to have all of you here. Senior Sausage, Nanobot. Oh my gosh, okay, maybe I can't list you all. There's so many of you. Stealthy Assassin. I'm glad to have you all here. Zedric von Kotmal says, I hate air ring missions in pretty much everything. So here's another thing that actually, a type of conversation that you have a lot in game development that I think is also relevant here. So again, in the version of this where this challenge was more frustrating, one option I always have would be to skip it. It's just not do that challenge. And I think that there's always going to be people, like for instance, if somebody raised this concern again in the fictional version of the Dying Light 2 team that I'm imagining, where they never solved this problem. If somebody, on that team was saying, hey, it's really, really frustrating to play this particular parkour challenge. There's a lot of problems. Only certain players are going to have sort of the willingness to play through it. Like me, for instance. Only some of us are going to be big enough Dying Light 2 fans to actually want to play a frustrating challenge like that so many times, especially with such difficulty, canceling when you make a mistake. They would bring that up and somebody would say, well, parkour challenges are optional. And so, it's okay if they're a little bit extra difficult because no one has to do them all. And that is true to a degree. Like right now, like most of these parkour challenges, I've done them once. I think several of them. This one, a lot of them, I've done them a single time and then never came back. I haven't tried to maximize them. I haven't tried to get gold in every single one of them. And if I decided I wanted to get gold in them, I could. But, there's actually nothing on the surface level of these parkour challenges that is saying, hey, you have to do this. The ones that I've completed look the same as the ones that I haven't. Except in one case. A lot of these parkour challenges get introduced to you in the form of missions. I don't know if this bird watching mission, for instance, is a parkour challenge, but it could be. A lot of parkour challenges originally start out as exclamation points on the map. And unfortunately, the way that players consume badges, urgent badges on a map like exclamation points, is different from the way that they consume passive stuff. Like when you're looking at a map and you're just saying like, oh, there's a thing here, there's a thing there, there's a thing over here, whatever. I don't regard all of these as like incomplete things that I worry about. This one is because I haven't finished it yet, but these ones are not. And I very quickly sort of learned the difference between a completed challenge here that I never have to think about again, an ongoing resource that I think about when I need it, but it doesn't matter to me right now, versus something I have not done yet that is sitting there telling me, you have an unfinished task on your checklist that you need to complete. When there's something like that sitting there, that actually does feel like I have to do it. Technically, I don't. These exclamation points, none of them are the main story quest. I could ignore every single one of them and never do any of them throughout my entire playthrough and still win Dying Light 2. So technically, they're optional. But I don't consume them. As a player, I don't perceive them as optional. I see them as a thing that is nagging me, like the little red number badges on the icons on my phone. It's like they'll sit there and bother me until I've done them. And so so you end up having sort of these interesting discussions on a game development team that are about, so how is the player going to perceive this? And it's very easy, I think, to get into a mindset where you're like, well, I intended for it to be this way, therefore it is this way. Therefore, players should get over it. Like if somebody said, well, I intend for these parkour challenges to, or you could say side missions. I intend for side missions to be optional. Therefore, they are optional, and therefore, if a player feels required to do them, the player is wrong. You can think that way, but I think that game developers who think that way are wrong. I think that, a player can't be wrong about their perceptions. Their perceptions are their perceptions. They just are. And a player's perceptions that's part of the medium that we're working in. The same way that like an artist might work in, charcoal or paint or sculpture or something like that. We work with player perceptions and how they respond to those perceptions. That's part of our medium. And, when we acknowledge, when there is a very common and predictable player response to a particular thing, like, for instance, considering all question marks to be required, that's a thing that you have to actually grapple with. You have to actually treat that as real. Even if you don't intend them to be that way, if you're communicating them that way, then players will perceive them that way, and then you have to design the game around that knowledge. And that is a mistake that we made in State of Decay 2, because our game is full of side missions that are absolutely not important to your progression. If you care about them and they're interesting, go for it. You can get things out of them. Some of them represent really useful opportunities. But there's no distinction between the things that are required of the player, or not really a clear hierarchy between the things that are required of the player and the things that are whatever, optional, who cares. And so players will often, new players, especially to State of Decay, will look at all the missions on the map and they'll be really intimidated by them because there's so many, and they respawn as quickly as the player resolves them. And they feel like, oh my gosh, this game is a checklist that never ends. And that is, they are not wrong. Even though we intended for the side missions to be a thing that you can ignore. And you'd be like, oh yeah, take the ones you're interested in, ignore the ones that you don't care about, and it's fine. It's not a big deal. That's what we intended. What we intend doesn't matter. What matters is what we communicate to the player. And if we communicate to the player using very common game language, that these things are important and that they should do them and be worried about losing them, then that's the reality we created, and we need to grapple with that. So this is an example of something that, Dying Light 2 actually probably did better than us, because their exclamation points, you really do have to do each one once, and then you're done. They go away. They are not a whack-a-mole thing. Like they don't keep coming up. And if they kept coming up and still looked as urgent as these exclamation points, that would be a problem. But that's something that the Dying Light 2 team did not do. So anyway, I guess, I've spent this whole time ranting. I should actually try to accomplish something. So let's find out what this guy has to say.
What happened?
I'm a pauper, brought low by my own family.
Who?
Yes, my own flesh and blood have brought me to this dreadful state. My own kith and kin. How can they be so unreasoning? So beguiled by phantasms? Woe betide them, woe.
Are you gonna tell me what's going on?
My papa, my dear papa, departed this vale of tears a month ago. And his siblings, my loathsome aunts and uncles, I spit at them, went mad with grief. They traveled.
Okay, so this guy, whatever. Whatever. I'm sorry, I'm being so rude.
Well,
They make offerings. You can wait here. I'll be waiting for you.
Okay, I gotta go do something. I don't know. All I want to do is make the exclamation point disappear. Okay, so he's poor. He's got some, like, inheritance or something from his family, some valuables that are someplace, and I need to go get them. Cool. And they're probably in, like, a dark hollow or something like that, someplace that's dangerous to go, except at night. And so I waited for night. I'm headed that direction now. And I think a lot of the time, these missions will actually not even be offered, except during the day, so that you have to fast forward to the night, and you have an entire night to get them done. Because I think a lot of them would become much more difficult if you actually... if you tried to get them done during the night and you didn't have enough time. Okay, so... I think... I'm not in the best place here. I realized, by the way, I still missed a bunch of stuff in the chat. For instance, Batkek wanted to know how I'm like Dying Light 2, how I'm liking Dying Light 2 so far. They personally weren't super into it, but yeah, I am really, really liking it. And the thing that I like about it the most is that it's got, when I want to have like an intense story-centric experience that's got, emotional content to it and stakes and drama, like they've got that. But if I just want to screw around while thinking about something else, they have that too. There's a lot of games where you're basically doing one of those or the other at any given time. But Dying Light 2 is a very versatile game where, I can play through a story and progress a plot line and, invest in all these different characters and what they're interested in and how their interests compete with each other and just all these, dramatic things. I can do that if I want to. But I can also just run around, and just running around by itself is fun. It's kind of like Spider-Man that way. Okay, so I'm inside the quest area. I'm here to look for valuables. I imagine that maybe I want to... Oh, hey, there's a little safe place up there. I should look for that later. This looks like it's usually a place where I'm fighting one of those, like, giant mutant guys. Oh, here's a semi-mutant guy. All right, so let's just kill these zombies. At first I thought that maybe I would have to, like, actively avoid a bunch of zombies. But I think, at least so far, these guys don't seem very scary. Just a handful of them. So it says to recover stuff from the altars. What the heck altars is he talking about? What does an altar look like? It's something that's in this area. I wonder how big this area is. Oh, is this something... I'm assuming this must be an area that I've already cleared? Because, let's see, if this is open, I probably already defeated an enemy here and cleared this. Yeah, looks like there's nothing much in here aside from just typical resources. Okay, nothing else in here, so this is not what he was pointing me at. Let's see what else there is. Oh, wait, there's something... What's this? Oh, it's just a mushroom. Okay. Huh. Well, so now I'm starting to really regret skipping through all that dialogue. I'm sorry, just the way that dude was talking, his purple prose was grating on me a little bit, and I was anxious to sort of get on to the next thing, but maybe that was a bad idea. Normally, oh, could it be this? Oh, here it is. Aha. Oh, yes. So real Burgonet, I don't know how to say your name, was pointing out that there are boxes with candles by them, and I glanced by and read that, but I wasn't sure what he was referring to, and now I do. Okay, so there's this one. There must be another one just like that. Thank you very much, real Burgonet. And let me know if I'm saying your name wrong, because I'd love to get it right. So I guess, my vision mode will probably highlight the next one. I assume that they're both around here. And actually, I just realized I should probably, in case I run into some more zombies, I should probably use some health here. People in the chat are probably like, oh, there it is. Right there. Got it.
All right, I have everything.
Cool, I have everything. So now I need to head back to that dude, but there was this safe haven up there that, since I'm here, since I'm in the neighborhood, I should probably try to grab that thing. Come on, get up. There we go. It's like up there, looks like. So how do I... There's a zip line down. There's another adjacent building, looks like easier to get up on. So let's try this jump. Yes, okay, good. And then we can make it up here. And does this get me high enough that I can... Yeah, okay, looks like this building's got kind of a stair-step shape to it. So as long as I just keep going in circles, I'll eventually reach the top. Here we go. By the way, I really appreciate the fact that I can do this. Being able to do open world activities at the same time that a mission is ongoing is actually a non-obvious thing for a developer to allow you to do. Depending on how you set up your missions, it's very easy to get yourself into a situation where the setup of a mission is such that if you don't just do nothing but the objectives of the mission in order, the mission gets screwed up. There's a lot of missions, a lot of ways that you can make missions work that would give you that problem where you're like, okay, well, if the player gets distracted by open world content, then they're going to mess up the progression of the mission, and so we can't allow that. We have to say, we have to put a thing that says, oh, sorry, you're in the middle of a mission. That means you can't do this open world activity. And that is very frustrating. And there's a lot of open world developers who have at least run into that problem during development, whether they've solved it or not. And so I appreciate the fact that you'll notice that there are some very simple rules about the way a Dying Light 2 mission works. That, they usually send you to a place. That one place has got its content changed up to support the mission. And then you finish it, and then you go back. And they don't try to do anything more ambitious than that, or try to, do anything that's a little bit that's more convoluted. So basically it means that anything you do in the area the mission takes place has an effect on the mission, but anything you do in unrelated places just has nothing to do with the mission. The mission takes place in one little tight area. And so that means that they don't have to turn anything off, and basically I'm not sure, I might even be able to just quit right now and have the mission even be saved mid-progress, which is something that State of Decay 2 doesn't even support. So let me open this up and see what happens.
Serves you right, you bastard! You almost got my brother killed.
I didn't mean for him to get hurt.
But he did, because of you. Stop conning others to run your dangerous errands. If I so much as get a whiff you pull this on anyone else, I'm turning you in.
Hey,
Who are you? Another one of this fool's errand boys? Whatever. I don't give a shit. I'm getting out of here.
what's going on here? What was he talking about?
You see, before the fall, I was an actor. Not even a good one. Oh, bereft of a stage, I took my craft to the streets and became a con artist. But not a very good one of those either, as I'm still quite poor.
Everything you said about your father, your family?
All the stuff I skipped?
I had to convince you to retrieve those valuables for me. The legend of the creature is real. Well, as real as the bandits who invented it to trick people into offering up their valuables. They come by later and collect them. I didn't dare go there myself and risk them catching me. So I figured I'd have someone else go. I'm a greedy, lazy bastard. What do you want from me?
Well, at least you're honest about one thing.
I try. Sometimes. Like now. You survived the ordeal. Keep the spoils for your trouble. As for me, the curtain's going down. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrage, or to take arms again and buy a sleep. And? Well?
Well, if you had a day job, I say not to quit it.
I wonder if it's fun for voice actors to play characters who are... Ah! What the? To play characters who are bad actors. Anyway. So Malatour says, as much as I love games with missions, I do like the quest model more. I want to load up on things and then go knock them all out. Not sure if the terminology is correct. Well, actually, I think depending on the setting, quest and mission are often used interchangeably. Basically, you usually say quest if you're making a fantasy game and mission if you're making a modern or science fiction game. But I do know what you're talking about. I think you're talking about the distinction between an all-consuming mission, where when you claim the mission now takes over and it's the only thing you're doing, versus like a sort of an ambient mission where you get the mission and you can do it, but you can also do a bunch of other things at the same time, and it doesn't take over the whole experience, so that you can have multiple ones of them going in parallel. Kind of like the way that I tend to treat the bounties in State of Decay 2, right? Where I try to come up with an array of them that are really sort of going to be fun and easy to sort of accomplish together. And then my experience isn't about, really focusing on any one of them. It's about sort of the hyper efficient, just the pride I take in being efficient in how I overcome a bunch of challenges simultaneously. People really enjoy optimizing for efficiency in general. It just makes them feel good. I think that's an ingrained thing in the human psyche. I think it's probably good for us to try to think of cheaper and more efficient ways to do things. I think we've been doing it for millennia, and it's not going to stop. And so that is one of the draws of that sort of more freewheeling model is the idea that players don't always want to be just fully 100% engaged in something. A lot of time, what they want to do is have a lot going on and be and take pride in being efficient. Cogs says the German versions of games never have quests because German doesn't have a word for quest. I have trouble believing that that's true, Cogs, because German intrinsically has a word for everything. Because in German, you're allowed to combine any combination of words to make a new word. So that seems like an unlikely thing to be true of one of the most versatile languages in existence. Now, French could be tough. Because French will is willing to colloquially French people will adopt words from other languages to describe things that French doesn't already cover. But there's sort of there's a French academy that sort of is in charge of what formally is part of the French language. You can decide whether or not you go in for that kind of prescriptivism, but they formally have that responsibility, and they will often actively, basically say, this word is not French. You can't say this in French. Or here, we'll make up a new French word that's a very awkward way to say that same thing. You know, instead of calling something a sweatshirt, you have to call it a shirt for sweating in French, which I don't know what the words for that are. But, so yeah, anyway. Let's see here. So Zedric von Kottmal says that the German word for quest is Suche, I think, or I don't know. I don't speak German, so I'm not going to be able to pronounce it like a German person would. But yeah, so we've been playing this for a little while. I think I made all the points I wanted to make. I hope you enjoyed it. So right now I'm just sort of standing in the middle of the darkness with a little bit of UV light on me, so I'm feeling relatively safe. And that's probably, a good time to quit. Now, I've still got plenty of time to keep streaming, so I'm going to play some other stuff live on my Twitch channel. So if you want to watch me live and like see a bunch of games back to back, you can always follow me on Twitch. But if you are following me on YouTube, then there's a subscribe button, and here's some links to other videos. The next time I do a Dying Light 2 video, presuming I do one, that's going to go right there.